Concept of physical preparation for combat sports is a difficult problem and one that gets bastardized by a lot of people. A lot of the time, we will see strength programs and conditioning plans that simply try to recreate the exact same work to rest ratios as what are found in the sport. Now, this has one fundamental problem, being that nothing that you will do in the weight room is actually going to prepare you adequately for your sport better than your sport. A fundamental misunderstanding of what strength and conditioning actually is at the heart of this issue. What I purport to do within strength and conditioning, and I've studied many of the best coaches in this space, and what has been a common theme amongst them is that within the weight room and within the strength and conditioning practice, we try to hit methods, means, and intensities that are not prepared adequately enough by the sports practice. What I mean by that is that we want to do stuff that your sport is not giving you. So we know that MMA training, for example, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and these sports, they for sure do not provide enough stimulation to give you maximal level of strength increase. We know that they do not provide a long enough time and volume to stimulate the central adaptations to your vascular system. They will not develop your lungs and your aerobic capacity in the same way that long distance endurance training will. So, my philosophy for sports prep, strength and conditioning outside of the sport is that we want to tick off as many of these boxes that we don't get through our sport, and then we can practice and get stronger at the things that we do within our sport during specific sports practice. Today, I want to talk about a training method for combining both strength and endurance that's very useful for mixed martial arts. And I use it with grapplers, wrestlers, and jiu-jitsu guys as well. It's called escalating density training. And this method has been popularized in the past throughout the early 2000s by a guy called Charles Staley. Now, he came at this from the background of powerlifting and bodybuilding, and the idea behind escalating density training is whenever an athlete hits a plateau through maybe they cannot add more intensity, perhaps with other hypertrophy methods, they're staling in the amount of progress they can make. We have another variable that we can try and improve through, and that's density. What density is the amount of volume of work that you do within a given period of time. And now Staley's ideas have been applied by doing, let's say, a couple of reps at a more moderate intensity, and we set, let's say, for example, 15 minutes, and we're going to do as many 70% of 1 RM reps of the bench press, taking rest as you need it within that time. This method has been further expounded upon by William Wayland, a very popular strength and conditioning coach from the UK who has coached many UFC athletes from the UK. And he's adapted this method specifically for martial arts fighters. He's used both methods to stimulate the lactic system and the aerobic system depending on what block or phase of the plan we're in. I'm going to discuss the aerobic method for now as it's an easy example, but basically how we would apply this is that we would choose two of our main compound strength exercises. From those two exercises, we're then going to perform one really good rep per each exercise, alternating back and forth. So you're never really getting so fatigued that your muscles are in that point that you're so close to failure. We're looking at roughly for people who are trying to integrate this for the first time, I would stay more at the 70% range, maybe a 7 out of 10 RPE on the effort. Although Wayland does encourage that over time you will build up to closer to 90% as well efforts, because that replicates more the stop start explode and repeat nature of MMA. For my money, we would probably start, if this is your first time trying escalated density method, we're going to reduce that to a 70%, because I know that there is not the same lifting culture within martial arts as within other sports, such as American football or any of these other sports. So, whenever I get people started, we'll usually have maybe two alternated exercises that aren't interfering muscle groups. So we might have an agonist antagonist pairing, such as a bench press and an inverted row, or perhaps we might have a squat and something else, such as a farmer carry or something that's non competing. So by doing this, we're going to get some great tendinous adaptations. You're going to expose the athlete gradually to the load that's going to benefit them over time, reduce their risk of injury. But crucially, if they're involved in martial arts training is very attritional for the most part, even depending on if it's grappling or striking, irregardless, it's likely going to be very, very intensive training. There is a very high attrition rate of the joints. People get knocks, bruises, all of these kind of things. So in general, as a general rule, it's very nice to be able to have the option to do your strength training in a way that isn't crushing them with so much axial loading. So this method really lends itself quite nicely to that. Because we're working at that kind of 7 out of 10 RPE, we're getting some great work capacity developed. We are developing specific muscular endurance. Hopefully, with your exercise selection, you will be sensitive to what the sport is. If it's Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, we're going to be targeting a lot of muscles in the upper body that are pulling, because that is a specific muscle contractions that really make a difference within that sport. Perhaps if we are performing stuff within striking, we're going to use a lot of leg drive, because that, even for boxers, is where we generate a huge amount of our power. So this is just a little bit of a brief intro to escalated density training. I hope that you enjoyed this brief overview. In general, we're going to look to increase the time that we perform in the blocks. So I would start people off typically with 5 minutes going back and forth within a given exercise. But over the block, over time, we're going to flesh that out, and we're going to make that even longer so that we're building up those musculotendinous adaptations. We're gaining in our muscular endurance and our aerobic capacity. Would you try this method? Let me know if you've ever seen anything similar, or if this is completely new to you. If you enjoyed this content, then please like and share it with a friend, particularly if they are interested in combat sports strength and conditioning. And if you would like to work with me, then please go to my page, find my email, or shoot me a message. I have my WhatsApp number up on there as well. I am open for coaching online and in person. Peace.